What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick here. So in this video, I'm gonna give you my best tips on how to prepare for your cold calls. I know a lot of people out there, when they're doing cold callings, they're really not getting the best start, and that dramatically influences their performance when they're actually on the call. And sometimes to actually be good at cold calling, it's not what you do in the cold call, it's how you feel and your mindset going into that space. So I'm gonna give you my best tips on when I used to do a lot of cold calling when I was at Oracle, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna get a lot of value out of this one. Now, before we get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you want to take your cold calling skills and sales game to the next level, make sure to check out my masterclass, Sales Legacy. Link is in the description. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing you have to keep in mind when it comes to cold calling is you want to first check how you feel about yourself before you start cold calling. If you're in a negative, let's say you just had an argument with your significant other before you came to work, right? You're not feeling good, you're hungry, or whatever it is, you're not going to perform the best at your job when you have all those things in your head. And you have to take a mental check. How do you feel in that moment? Do you feel happy, sad, excited, ambitious, demotivated? You know, what are those emotions? And a lot of times for me, when I used to do a lot of cold calling, I would write these emotions down, like how I'm feeling in the day. If I'm not in the mood to cold call, what do I need to do to psych myself in that mindset to get ready for cold calling? And what I did a lot before was I would listen to music that would get me hyped for cold calling, right? Like I just had to get in the zone. For me, it was music, like a lot of rap music. For other people, it might be meditation, it could be classical music, it could be anything. You know, everyone's a little different in how their brain works. The most important thing is to clear your head from all the nonsense that doesn't relate to performing well in cold calling. Take the nonsense out so you can focus on your job. And if you're constantly like in a bad mood, or you know something in your life is just always bringing you down, then you know beyond sales, it's time to really reflect on yourself and reflect on your life and remove all the negativity, whether it's a person in your life that's bringing you down, or it's you know something about your manager, your job, whatever it is, right? Take out the negativity so you can focus on the good. And one quick thing that really made a big difference in my life is if you focus on the fundamentals of your health, it's going to allow you to perform in all aspects of your life, such as getting enough sleep. For me, it's 8 hours plus a night. I feel terrible if I get 7 hours of sleep, so I always get at least 8. Eating the right foods, right? You don't have to eat everything healthy all day, every day. For the most part, like you should eat stuff that it's not like killing you. Like you shouldn't eat a burger every day. And exercise, right? This is so obvious. Everyone's like, oh, go to the gym, right? But like seriously, take a little run, lift some weights, play some sports. There's just so much evidence out there that says exercising is a positive impact for your body and for your mind. Just do it. So if you just do those 3 fundamental things, it's gonna help you so much in your mental game. So the next tip I have for you is you gotta review your script. In a cold call, you need to know inside and out what your sales script is. You don't have to memorize it line by line, but you need to know the flow. What are you gonna say in the beginning? What are you gonna say in the middle? What are you gonna say in the end when you close out the call? Just generally, how is your script going to go? Also, know what are the common objections for your industry, for your specific product and service. Because if you already know what they are, you gotta practice them, you gotta know them like the back of your hand. That's gonna be how you kill it on your cold calls. And for me, how I reviewed my script is I literally just by myself went through my script over and over and over and recording myself doing this until I just memorized it by heart, right? So for me, it's just raw repetition to get better, and over experience, you just become a natural at it. That's pretty much it. So know your script really well. You know, you can have your script on your screen when you're doing your cold calls. That's okay too. In my opinion, when you know it by heart, it's gonna be so much more easier to handle situations that are not on your script and just to become a more fluid and flexible communicator overall. So next tip I have for you is to do basic research on the company. So when you're doing cold calls, the worst thing you can do is you call someone and you don't really know who they are. You don't have any context. You don't even know what industry they're in. You're just like, hey, do you want to buy my thing? And of course, they're not going to be positively receptive to you. That's why you got to do basic research on that company. And the simple way to do it is literally go on Google, type in the company name, go on their website, read their website for literally 30 seconds to get a feel of what they're about. And that usually is enough. If your company has access to certain data like revenue reports, how many employees they have, certain pains that they have, great. You know, that's going to make your job a lot easier. But even for me, when I didn't use those tools when I was at Oracle, all I really had to do was go on their website and it would give me the gist. And because I know my product and service so well, and I know what pain points these people are likely to experience, I can go in with a lot of context if I just do 20 seconds of research. Next tip I have for you is have a goal for the day. So if you're cold calling, you need to know what is your goal for the day. And a lot of times it's just hitting your KPIs or your quotas or whatever you want to call it, right? For some companies, they're like, all right, you got to make 50 dials a day, right? 50 phone calls or 100 cold calls a day. It really just depends on your industry, your company, and things like that. So a lot of times some companies are volume based and you just got to hit those numbers. Other companies, they're more slower paced and more like strategic. You got to understand what game you're playing. always have a goal for the day. It's gonna be like a day-to-day goal. Usually for me, I like to measure activity. So I don't always measure the end result because sometimes you can't control the end result. Let's say your company gives you a list of 100 companies to call. What if that list is not good? Well, you still have to call it and maybe nobody's gonna pick up the phone. If that's the case, so be it. As long as you make those calls and you're consistent, you're not like distracted and you're not making excuses to why you're not calling, that's important. Once you get through the flow and habit of always hitting your numbers in terms of how many calls you're doing per day, the next step is to hit those KPIs of like how many qualified meetings are you getting? How many deals are you closing? You know, whatever those things are, it's just knocking those out the park, right? If you're not hitting your goals for whatever reason, you know, every day, every week, you need to reflect back, probably talk it over with your manager and be like, okay, what's going on? How come I'm struggling to hit 100 dials a day? What do I need to do differently? What's John, you know, the cubicle over, how is he doing it, right? And once you understand what are the mistakes you're making, you can correct it and become better. And this actually leads us to the next step, which is to reflect, write down all the things that work and all the things that don't work. In cold calling, you wanna think of it like an art and science. And from a science perspective, if you think about a cold call, there are many different variables from your opening line. What are you saying to get the person to agree to a 5-minute phone call? What do you say during those 5 minutes? What questions are you asking? How do you close the call? How do you schedule the next meeting, right? So there are all these independent variables that don't necessarily directly connect to each other. So you can change these variables one by one to see what works. So if you find a certain opening line like, hey, John, did I catch you at a bad time? Let's say you found that that works really well in your specific industry. Well, great, keep doing that for all the cold calls. But if you find, let's say it's not working, then you need to say, okay, the hey, John, did I catch you at a bad time? It's not working. What can I say differently to increase my chance of them wanting to talk to me? So you switch it out and you say, hey, John, I'm a little lost. You mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? And maybe that works better for you, right? So whatever it is, you just have to understand what these variables are, replace the ones that don't work, and try new things to see what works the best. Eventually, when you do this over time, it's like you're chiseling your script to make it like this ultimate script for a specific market, right? And you can only do this when you put in the time, you put in the experience to find what works and what doesn't. You can also shortcut this by listening to other people who are successful and just copying them. I would actually recommend doing that first. And then from there, if you want to innovate on top of their script, start A/B testing, start testing things out until you find something that really works and gets really good conversion rates when it comes to hitting your KPIs, qualified meetings, and closed sales. And so with that said, those are going to be my best cold calling tips to prepare for your cold calls, and I'll see you guys in the next one.